Hello and welcome. You're watching yet another episode of The Social Network. Now, before we introduce our topic for the day, Raghuram Rajan just has taken over as the new RBI head, and that too at a time when India's growth has been its worst in a decade and when the economy has seen its worst in nearly 2 decades. Now, RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan in a press conference just said, "Some of my actions won't be popular. I'm not looking to garner Facebook likes." That, of course, is a quote that is being talked about a lot on social media. But let's quickly take a look at what is being said about this man. Of course, many are expecting him to change the course of India's economy. But of course, that is a bit of a tall task, given that the man has come in at a time when things are already looking pretty bad. Okay, Preeti Verma says, Raghuram Rajan, what an inspiring and handsome personality. In fact, his looks are something that's also being talked about a lot on social media. India Policy says, will RBI suddenly become autonomous with Raghuram Rajan, or will the Ministry of Finance continue to muzzle it? Dwisha has written in saying, I really hope the new RBI Governor, Mr. Raghuram Rajan, proves to be much more than what meets the eye. He is very suave. And Araka has written that ET has its new poster boy, hashtag Raghuram Rajan, all over my timeline already. Thirin Sayer has written in saying, words of wisdom from a new RBI governor. And of course, lots of people talking about how they're hoping that he will change the course of India's economy. And well, all the best to him. Certainly, everybody in India is hoping for some good news in terms of the economy. But of course, the big focus today on the social network, of course, every citizen is innocent until proven guilty, and everyone is equal in the eyes of the law, but that some are more privileged than others, that some are treated more equal than others. The holy cows of the law, as it were, and nowhere more evident than the story of self-styled Godwin Asaram Bapu, who faces allegations of sexually assaulting a minor girl in his ashram in Jodhpur. But given the recent outrage in the country over sexual violence against women, you would think that the government would fast-track cases and punish the guilty. But Asaram has in fact been handled with kid gloves from when the case first came into news. Not just that, he's been given VIP treatment despite the nature of charges. And it's not just him, the list is long. And so on the social network today, we discuss the entitled and the law. But before we introduce our panelists for the day, let's quickly listen into what Trivan has sent us.
The law of the land is the same for every citizen of India, irrespective of his caste, creed, religion, sex, birthplace, etc. The issue comes during the implementation of these laws. These laws are not implemented correctly, and that is where the real problem lies.
And joining us on the show, we're joined by Karuna Nandi, who's a lawyer in the Supreme Court. She joins us from the capital. We're also joined by Ranjana Banerjee, who joins us from Mumbai, who's a journalist, and she's talked about the cult of worship that exists in India, and perhaps that explains some of the reasons why we treat many citizens as more equal than others, and they will be talking to us about that. I just want to start with you first, Ranjana, because of course, you are also based out of Mumbai, where we saw the Mumbai gang rape. We saw the police being, and that of course created huge headlines. We saw the police get into action. The accused were picked up, and soon after that, we saw this case come against Asaram Bapu. And the treatment of the people, of the accused in both the cases is so starkly different.
It's quite amusing actually, because the Asaram case happened a little before the Mumbai rape case. But there was a lot of conversation on the social media as well as to why the mainstream media wasn't discussing the Asaram case. But once the Mumbai gang rape happened at Shakti Mills, I think it shook everything up again, which is why the pressure on the government to do more about Asaram became greater. But of course, the Mumbai rapists were picked up almost immediately, whereas Asaram had time to meditate, to sleep, to think, to go through all his meetings before he was finally picked up 12 days after the complaint was made.
In fact, I'm just going to welcome in Rameshwar Arya, who's actually joining us on a video call, and he's a supporter of Asaram Bapu. Rameshwar Arya, इतने लोगों का इतने दिनों से कितना गुस्सा है आम आदमी में, क्योंकि इतनी हेनस, इतनी ग्रेव क्राइम में उनका नाम आया है, बट फिर भी उनको इतनी अच्छी तरह से ट्रीट किया जा रहा है। लगता ही नहीं है कि उनको किसी क्राइम के किसी सेक्सुअल असॉल्ट के क्राइम में उनका नाम आया है।
इसमें मैं यही कहना चाहूंगा कि उनपे तो आरोप लगा था, पहले उन्हें कहा गया कि आसाराम बापू ने बलात्कार किया, तो फिर बाद में पता लगा कि उनपे छेड़छाड़ का आरोप लगा है। ठीक है, अभी भी वो केस कोर्ट में चल रहा है। कुछ लोग तो भारत में ऐसे हैं, इमाम बुखारी जैसे, उनपे 50 नॉन अवेलेबल वारंट निकले हुए हैं, उन्हें आज तक पकड़ा भी नहीं है पुलिस ने। आप उन लोगों का नाम क्यों नहीं लाते, हमारा ये क्वेश्चन है। और अपराध सभी के लिए समान है।
अपराधी कोई भी हो, भारत के प्रधानमंत्री ने कोयला घोटाले में फाइलें उनकी नज़रों के सामने गायब होगी। जिन्होंने कोयला घोटाला किया, 157 फाइलें जल गई, गायब होगी, सीबीआई के पास नहीं है। उन पे कोई भी, वो भी तो आर्थिक अपराधी है, उन पे कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हो रही है।
मगर रामेश्वर एक बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस है इन दोनों चीजों में जिनके बारे में आप बात कर रहे हैं। आसाराम बापू के अगेंस्ट एक केस दायर है। या करुणा,
देखिए, इसमें इलीगैलिटी में कोई रूल आर्टिकल 14 नहीं लगता है। मतलब कि if there is a illegality in the coal scam, if there is an illegality by Asaram Bapu, if there is a illegality by anyone, just because one person is not prosecuted does not mean another person should not be prosecuted, right? So therefore, if the arrest and sending of Asaram to judicial custody for 14 days is a correct thing. Whether somebody else, if somebody else is not being dealt with in the appropriate manner, yes, that is important to raise. But that does not mean that Asaram should not be treated in accordance with the law. So that's a completely fallacious argument which is repeatedly being raised, I think, by Asaram's followers.